Here we go.
All right, welcome everybody to the virtual edition of Vacation Mode Daf Yomi by Kahal Yereim. This is what we do when we take a break. We just go online. All right, so we are 13 lines up from the bottom on Daf Lamed Gimel Amid Aleph, and this is the getting used to things version. So I'll get more comfortable and confident as we go. Not getting distracted by watching myself teach Daf Yomi to me because I'm interested in listening. Um, but trying to keep my finger on the place at the same time as I look up and
And
down.
also, we don't have
So
to
we'll
pause
do
the
as we
video.
we'll see how we do. All
We don't have to
right.
pause the video. We don't have to pause the video at 28. We can keep going.
All right, good. So there we go. And we don't have to worry about anybody tripping over any cords. So Baruch Hashem, we should be okay to go. All right. So here we are. Bar Adi Taya. We were in the midst of conversation about utensils. Well, let's just catch ourselves up, first of all. Number one, that wine that belonged to a non-Jew, whether he has used it for Avodah Zara or not, is prohibited for Jews to use at all. And I should also mention Ellie is here as well, so we should know. Ellie has joined us for the Daf Yomi. More people that
Oh,
Hey,
are
Ellie.
nice. Hey, Ellie. Awesome.
he's
Awesome.
in person. So the Yayin Nesach is when wine is used by a non-Jew for the sake of idolatry. In order for him to use it, to do that, all he has to do is pour a little bit of the wine out. So we need to keep wine out of the hands of non-Jews because as soon as they start touching it, we're worried that they're going to start messing with it and making it consecrated for non-Jews.
Mhm.
Secondarily, since it was impossible to tell if they had done anything to a wine, they prohibited for getting any use out of prohibited from eating any wine that belonged to a non-Jew. They call that stam yenam. Now, if there was a wine product that non-Jews would not use for idolatrous purposes, like it was cooked or like it was mixed in with other ingredients as part of a mixture. So then that isn't going to be as problematic. That's not problematic for a non-Jew to touch it. So you have to worry about things like we call nowadays mevushal, cooked wines, or they had back then we had a kutash, which was right, kutash, I think I remember what it was called, was a hash that was made and had some wine ingredients in it as well.
Mm.
We also had discussed potentially prohibiting other things that non-Jews made out of a fear of getting too comfortable and socializing. So we had discussed last time about beer, that there was seemed to be some that were machmir or strict about drinking beer, although it seems as though that enactment didn't catch on universally through all beers, although the idea of having a beer with a non-Jew, going out with your non-Jewish coworkers for a drink would be the sort of a thing to be avoided. And now we're at the point where we're discussing that now we already understand that the wine itself is prohibited. What if you have utensils that were used by a non-Jew? They've absorbed the flavor of the wine, and now the Jew is going to be using those same containers for his wine. So, yeah, Yehuda.
You have to take it to the mikveh if that happens.
So the only time you have to take a kli to a mikvah is if it's owned by the non-Jew, right? So if we have a circumstance where a Jew has let's give a couple of for examples here, right? But we'll give for examples. We're not going to really talk about a circumstance where the non-Jew, where we're talking about using or purchasing the non-Jew's kli. Then yes, you would have to have the mikvah, although the Gemara does not bring that case up. But if a circumstance was, if it was a utensil that was used, that was a Jewish person's utensil, but a non-Jew used it without permission, and that's going to be our first case. Bar Adi Taya Onos Hanu Zike Me Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef. So Bar Adi, who was an Arab merchant, so he stole and used without permission the wineskins that belonged to Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef. So now that these wineskins had wine that was not kosher in it, so Rama behu chamra, he put wine in it, v'hadrinhu nialei, and he returned it to him when he was done using it. So also Shah
Mm.
Beit Midrasha. So Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef came and he asked in the base medrash, "What's the halacha? What can I do about this? What is the solution?" Amar le Rabbi Yirmiyah. So Rabbi Yirmiyah says, "Kachora Rabbi Ami." This is what Rabbi Ami taught. Halacha lemaisa. Here's the practical law is like this. Memalan mayim shlosha yamim ume'aron. What you have to do is you have to fill these containers with water for 3 days, and then you have to pour them out. So the Amar Rava, and Rava then further stated, Tzarech le'aron me'es la'es. The soaking procedure has to be a 24-hour period. And this is practical halacha. Now, just to be able to point out that we know the distinction, when some non-kosher food gets absorbed into a kosher pot, generally speaking, that occurs through heat, through cooking. So if you have a metal pot and then you cook non-kosher food in, then the food gets absorbed in as non-kosher, gets absorbed through heat. The only way to remove that flavor is also through heat. This is an absorption which is not through heat. Normally, let's say another circumstance, somebody takes some non-kosher food that's cold and it comes in contact with a container. The container does not absorb the flavor. The only reason why this container does absorb the flavor is because although it's cold, it has some stronger, maybe whether it's alcoholic or acidic or some other strength potency to it that causes the taste to get absorbed into the container. Therefore, this is a unique method of koshering, and therefore, but the practical halacha is that it has to be that the water gets placed into the container, it remains in the container. Oh, thank you, Jeff, for pointing out. I did not mention that as Lamed Gimel Lamed Aleph, right? Part
No
3 in
problem.
the article. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. But that the taste is absorbed has to be removed by filling it with water so that the liquid comes out. You let it sit there for 24 hours and then you spill it out. Now, it could stay in there for more than 24 hours if you so want, but it can't be less than 24 hours. You spill it out, refill it for another 24 hours. Most poskim hold that the filling and the refilling does not have to be like consecutive, right? You could fill it, wait 24 hours, then wait a couple of days, and then do it again. So that's what this is. Yeah, Brian.
So I was just going to ask, because that's ben yomo is the 24 hours where you don't use it. In this case, it requires soaking. Is ben yomo enough?
So waiting is not going to be sufficient because the waiting, just leaving it by itself. Ben Yom, the reason why, generally speaking, with kashrus, you have to wait a 24-hour period is because when a taste gets extracted, you want the taste to not be beneficial to whatever the flavor is coming out, right? So by waiting 24 hours, you allow whatever flavors that are in that container to go bad, to go sour. So it becomes a bad flavoring. That doesn't apply in this case with wine because wine is not going to go bad and the flavor is going to get worse with a 24-hour wait period. So there is no wait period required here, right? All that the soaking is going to remove the flavor, but there's no waiting that's necessary that's involved. Later on, the Gemara is going to give us an alternative waiting option, but it's not going to be a 24-hour waiting option. I don't want to give that away. Okay? Savar mina, so we wanted to say from here, honey mili didon. That's when the wineskin was our wineskin in the first place. That makes a difference because the initial flavors that go into the container are stronger than later flavors, right? Because you could presume that since it was being used already for kosher wine, it's already absorbed into the walls of the container a lot of kosher wine. So when the non-kosher wine comes in, it can also get taken out. So he thought that means since this circumstance was the wineskin is Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef's wineskin that this happened to. Aval didhu lo. But if it was their wineskin, so non-Jews wineskin, it would not be acceptable to solve in that way. That would not be sufficient. Ki also Rabin, when Rabin came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar Reb Shimon ben Lakish, he said the name of Reb Shimon Lakish, Echad shalanu v'echad shalahem. It doesn't matter whether it's a non-Jew's utensil or a Jewish person's utensil. The 3-day soaking period does remove all the flavors from the sides of the utensil. Savar Rav Acha Brei de Rava, Kame de Rav Ashi Lememar. So Rav Acha Brei de Rava, he was in front of Rav Ashi and he wanted to say, Hani mili nodos. That this is only when we're talking about the wineskins, because there's a certain different amount, depending on the material that we're dealing with, how much gets absorbed. Wineskins absorb a certain amount. About kankanim, low, but when it comes to jugs, earthenware containers, those are going to be more absorbent, and this isn't going to be sufficient. Amar le Rav Ashi said to him, Loshna nodos v'loshna kankanim. It does not matter. Wineskins or earthenware utensils, right? Those can be the liquid can be removed. Now, this is again also contradistinction to heating up foods. Normally, we say when it comes to koshering things, earthenware is not something that you can get the flavor out of. Once it gets absorbed deep into it, and you can't get it out of. Since this isn't a heat absorbed flavor, it doesn't get into the container as significantly, and so it can be removed through the soaking method. Okay, Tana Rabban, our next case. A rabbi said, "Kankanim shel ovdei kochavim chadashim, grudim mutarim." So we learned that the jars, the containers, the earthenware containers of non-Jews that are new and they're smooth, right? They haven't been inviting people in. Okay. So they're new and they are smooth. So then those are able to be used, right? Av yishanim umezufafin asurin. But if they are older, right, meaning that they've absorbed more flavors, they've been used a lot, or that they are coated with pitch, and the pitch is greater absorbency as well. So then those are going to be asurin. Those are going to be prohibited. Ove kochavim nosin letochan yayin. So if a non-Jew puts into them wine, so then Yisrael nosin lesochan mayim. So then a Jew can put water, as we said, in order to be able to rinse out the flavor. Ove kochavim nosin letochan yayin. If a non-Jew puts into them wine, right? So another thing that you could do is Yisrael nosin letochan tzir umorias. So a Jewish person could put in fish brine, because fish brine is also potent and is going to rinse out the flavor from the wine as well. Or morias is the fat. We said that morias also contains like fish hash. It's kind of got like some fish pieces in it as well. So that is fine if you use that. Ve'eno choshesh, and you don't have to worry that if you put your fish brine or you put your fish hash into this container, that any of the liquid, any of the taste from the wine is going to come out and get absorbed into these items, because these items, their taste is so potent that it will nullify any of the flavor of the wine altogether. Not beneficial for it. So they're going to be nullified anyway. So unlike when it comes to water that we rinse it out and we pour it out, rinse it out again, don't drink the water, right? Because it's got the flavoring in it. The flavoring, the absorbed flavoring from the wine doesn't make this, the fish brine or the fish oil bad, right? You can use that right away. Ve'eno choshesh, you don't have to worry about it. So Ibailu. So I asked the following question. We're on Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, top of the page. Lichatchila o diavad. Is this ideal or is this not ideal? Meaning, should you try to use the water method and then clean it out and try to avoid this? But I guess if you used it, so then you haven't ruined your fish oil or your fish brine. Or is this an equally fine method, and just, you know what, save yourself some time, just put your fish brine into the container and it's going to kosher it and it won't ruin your fish brine and everything's going to be fine. So Toshma come listen to Tani Rav Zvid taught Bar Oshaya, halokech kankanim mina ovdei kochavim. If somebody purchases jugs from non-Jews, chadashim, that are new, nosin letochem yayin, so you could put wine directly into it. Yeshenim, if you buy older utensils, then nosin letochan tzir umorias lechatchila. Then what you should do is you should use them for fish brine or the fish hash, because that's not going to get ruined by the taste of the old old wine that was in the container. And that is lechatchila, 100%. Go ahead and do that, and it's not a problem at all. I'm trying to figure out exactly at what point to mention the little bit of research I did on sherry casks that we were discussing. Here's a decent enough place to point it out, right? The issue of storing scotch or other types of liquors in containers that were used for non-kosher wine, like sherry. So what they'll do is they'll pour those liquors into those alcohol things, the scotch, into the container, and the intent is to store the flavor in these casks. So I read on the CRC website, if you take a look at the CRC website, Chicago Rabbinical Council, they do not like using sherry cask single malts and advise against it. There are others. It was originally brought up, this shaila was brought up in the late 40s, early 50s. And Rav Moshe Feinstein had felt that as long as there was enough of a nullification of 1 to 6, I'm not sure exactly why 1 to 6, not 1 to 60, which is normally the nullification, that the scotch or the alcohol that is getting the container from the sherry cask can nullify. Now, the reason why the Chicago Rabbinical Council and others don't like to use this 6-to-1 nullification is they count the entire volume of the wooden cask as the ratio between alcohol to cask, meaning you need 6 times as much alcohol as you have the thickness of the cask, which apparently these are pretty thick, and so it's hard to nullify them if you are going to if you're going to Yehuda's pointing out that the COR has no issue with it, right? And in accordance with the with Rav Moshe Feinstein's shita. It was also further pointed out that Rav Moshe Feinstein, even when he said 6-to-1, felt like he was holding like the Ramah shita that the problem was only if wine was actually being added lichatchila, right? This is not talking about where we're talking about absorbed flavors that are coming from the cask into the liquid. But if a person poured yayin nesech, real non-kosher wine, into the mix, then there would be a problem potentially nullifying that because it would be intentionally done. But if it was a storage, if this was just the utensil, even if it was being done for the purpose of storing the wine and helping it gain flavor and aging in those casks, it wouldn't be a problem. And furthermore, apparently these alcohols are stored in multiple casks. So what happens is they don't exclusively age them in sherry cask. They'll age it in a bourbon cask and then a sherry cask or some other kind of way. Every time it gets aged in a different cask or something, then apparently that you have to nullify the addition between the two. In any event, it winds up becoming a little bit complicated. But as Yehuda points out, the Chicago Rabbinical Council is strict on this. There are others like Stark K who are, I think they are more lenient, but suggest that if a person can refrain from using things that are specifically labeled as sherry cask aged, that it would be beneficial, and the COR, according to Rabbi Yehuda here, permits it. So yes, thank goodness we live in Toronto. Yeah, Brian.
So I was just gonna ask because it is bemazed. It's not beshoigig that they're mixed. Batel b'shishim. I know you said it about like if they added wine, but they're putting it in.
The question is if b'diavad for
Right.
us. We didn't add it in that way. That was how the product was manufactured.
No, right, but we're putting it in a cask, knowing there's like that is bemazed.
Yeah, this is a great. This sounds like a great mark it down, Jeff. This will be our Shavuos night drasha. This will be Shavuos night. We'll have a long conversation. We'll mark it down. I like it. I have somebody bought me a book. I think I have to go look at it. It's not on my shelf here to be unfortunately traveling. I'm like, great, I'll read my book and I'll be able to come to Daf Yomi and get experience. And all I had was web resources for checking through things. But I have got a book that somebody did all the research and collected all the sources and things, and it would be a great easy shiur to prepare for Shavuos, and be glad to share other people's opinions on this matter. Okay, so
beautiful.
Bottom line is that many do use it. I know also that it was, as I saw online, that Lubavitch also seems to have very little problem with drinking single malts and or anything for that matter, but vodka preferred. But yeah. Anyway, onward we go. No comment. Okay. Boy, me Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya may Rabbi Ami. So Rabbi Yehuda Anasi asked Rabbi Ami asked him the following question: Hechziron lekivshon ha'esh v'nislavnu mahu. Let's say you've got this pottery, and instead of soaking it out and getting the liquid out, let's say you put it back in the fire and you burned the liquid out. How would that work? Somer lay, so he answered it back. Seer sorif. What's the whole reason why brine is going to get the flavor out? Because it burns the flavor out. It burns the taste out. So or lokol shekid. So fire is the best, right? And a reminder that fire is always the best. So Itmar Nami, so it's also been said, Amr Rav Yochanan, the name of Yochanan, that name of Yochanan, Vamri Law, Amr Rav Asi, Amr Rav Yochanan, some say it was Rav Asi and then Rav Yochanan, Kankanim shall ovde kochavim shechzirin lekivshan. If you take jars or utensils that are earthenware jugs and you put them back in the fire, so then lekivshan eish, kevan shenishru zifasan mehen mutarin. They have pitch on the inside that they line on the inside. Once that pitch melts away and goes off, so then it's fine, right? Because the flavor was absorbed in the pitch. So then it's out of the way. It's done. So Amar Rav Ashi says, Lo tema ad dinosran. You don't need it to go that far. You don't need it to actually melt the pitch away. Elafilu rafai mirpa avagav delo nasar. Even if the pitch starts to weaken and fall away, then that's going to be enough, right? It doesn't have to be completely burned off. Pligi after delo nasar kinsa, right? Even though it doesn't completely burn off. So kinsa, I think that's the next thing. Kinsa, I'm reading it properly.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I went too far. That's why here. Check my grammar. Yep. Okay. So now he puts in kinsa, wood chips, right? Let's say instead of burning it out by putting a fire on the outside, right, which causes the taste to be get burnt out. Let's say he puts wood chips on the inside. So pligi ba Rav Acha v'Ravina. This already is an argument between Rav Acha and Ravina. Chad asar v'chad shari. One says that it's not going to be good enough, and one says it's permitted. The hilchos command the asar, and the halacha is that it is not good enough, right? You've got to be able to put it on the outside so it causes the liquid to expand out of the container. So he asked my question. This is where I was going to talk about the sherry cask. I knew it was coming up, but I thought, right? What if you put other alcoholic beverages in, like beer, right? Let's say you put beer in the sherry cask. What happens then? So Rav Nachman and Rav Yehuda Asri, Rav Nachman and Rav Yehuda say it's prohibited. It's going to absorb the flavor. And Rava Shari, Rava says it's okay. That is our halacha, right? We bring that down, that it is permissible. Ravina Shara Le Rav Chia Braid Rav Yitz. Now, by the way, we say it's permissible. We're not only saying that it removes the flavor from the utensil, we're saying that the beer itself is still kosher, right? The beer is still kosher. Like we said by the brine, and we said by the fish oil, right? Those are still kosher. So this is also still kosher. Ravina Shara Le Rav Chia Brei de Rav Yitzchak. Ravina permitted for Rav Chia, the son of Rav Yitzchak, Lemerma Bei Shichra. So he permitted him to put beer into these kinds of into these non-Jewish persons' containers, right? And this is Brian's question. Even lechatchila, and the answer is yeah, he permitted him to put it in. Also, Rama Bei Chamra. So then Rav Chia went and he put wine into the container. Now that's a no-no, right? Can't put wine into the container, right? You can put beer into the container, can't put wine into the container. Even though he made that mistake, nevertheless, Ravina did not change his mind. Ravina did not say, oh, see, if I let people put beer in it, people will make the mistake and think they could put wine in it because they'll say, what's the difference? Alcoholic beverage burns the taste out. No, it's not true. But even though that mistake happened, he still didn't change his mind. Amar Akroy B'Yomahu, he said that was just a simple misunderstanding, right? That's not a mistake that's common that people are going to make. People know the difference between beer and wine. Okay. Rav Yitzchak bar Bisna, Hava lehanhu mani depakuns. Sorry, I say that wrong. Depakusna. So Bar Bisna, Rav Yitzchak bar Bisna, he had some containers that they were made of cow dung, right? I guess that was a material that they can make. I know you're thinking that, but I think that Jeff had the face, right? Jeff, I think not Jeff Walt, but Jeff Dees has that face, right? So I think that once it is hardened and baked and cooked or whatever, and the liquid is out of it, then I suppose it whatever. I'm so gross. Anyway, they put their wine in it, right? So he had those. So Malinu Maya. So he put water in it, right? An Kinhu Bishimsha, and he put it into the sun, right? In order to be able to get this the taste of the wine out of it, right? Paku, and they shattered, right? The water heated up the utensil and it cracked. So Amar le Rabbi Abba asartinhu alech isure de liolam. He says, you didn't follow the instructions, right? The instructions were not to put the water in there and then warm the water up. And you didn't follow, you added an extra stringency, you added this in. And so therefore you've ruined your own utensil. That's your problem. Amar Amar Rabbanan Mamlinhu Maya. So he says the Rabbanan said you've got to rinse the containers out. You've got to fill them with water and let them sit for 24 hours. Anuchi b'shimsha miyamar, but nobody ever told you to put it in the sun where it's going to heat up. So therefore, if it damaged the utensils, that's your problem. Amar of Yusna, Amar of Ami. So Rav Yusna said in the name of Rav Ami, clean Neser. So this was Neser is alum, I think is how the Art Scroll translates, if I'm not mistaken. Right? It's a highly absorbent material or earth. It's an earth that's highly absorbent. So Elo Tahara Olamis. If you have a utensil, and apparently it had a greenish tinge to it, if you have this kind of utensil, you can't get the flavor out of it ever, right? It's going to absorb the flavor so much, you're not going to get it out of there. My Kli Neser, what is this? Amar Rav Yossi Barab, and Rav Yossi Barab says, Kli Mechu Ferish Sarif. It was a earthenware utensil that it was made from earth that was dug up from this material was used for washing clothing. It had a detergent. That's what really this material was. This what alum was used for. It was used as a detergent. Yeah, Jeff, your question. You're muted, so you got to unmute to ask your question.
What is Nesach wine?
Nesach wine is wine that is consecrated by a non-Jew for the use of idolatry. And since it's become for use of idolatry, it becomes non-kosher to eat or drink. It becomes prohibited from getting any benefit out of as well. So that's what we're really worried about, is any absorbed taste from that non-kosher wine getting out of your utensil into anything else that gets put into it later. And then, of course, this utensil, you're not going to get the flavor out. So therefore, this utensil there's nothing you could do to it. Depay parzuk, right? Okay, so depay parzuk rofila. So there was a non-Jewish officer. His name was Parzuk, right? He was I guess he was a noble person in the king's household. Onos hani koche mi pumpadisa. So what he did is he stole these containers from Pumpadisa, from Jews. Rama Buhu Chamra, I guess he needed them because he had a big wine shipment coming in, he needed storage. So he confiscated all the Jews' utensils and he put his wine in them. And then Adrinu Nialaihu, he gave them back when he was done using them. Also Shailuhu Lirav Yehuda. So they came and they asked Rav Yehuda, who was the posek in Pumpadisa. So they asked, what's the halacha now? What do we have to do with these? So Amar Davar She'ein Machnisu Lekiyomhu. So he said that this is not something that was put into the container for a lengthy period of time. It was stored for a very short time. So mishach shechon b'mayim v'hein mutarim. Since that's the case, doesn't even require the 3 liquid washings. A simple rinsing will do. It was not put in for a lengthy period of time. Simple rinsing is fine. Rav Avira said, Hani chatzbe shechini deramoy. So there was utensils that were red utensils made from a red earth that came from the Aramean soil, and so it had a reddish tinge to it. Kevan de lobloi tuva, since that type of earth doesn't absorb well, right? I guess the different earth in the different consistencies of the clay from different regions had different absorbency properties. So this was not going to absorb well. So mishach shechon b'mayim umutarim. Since that's the case, all you have to do is rinse it out and you're fine. Amar Rav Papi says, Hani patvasa debe michsi. He says, these earthenware utensils of non-Jews, from the non-Jews that come from a place called Bei Michsi, and that was also a hardened type of earth that was also unusual. Kavan de lo bloi tuva, they also don't absorb well. Meshachshim b'mayim mutarm, they also just need to be rinsed out, and that's fine. So I would presume, let's say somebody had a metal container or a glass container and some non-kosher wine went in it, all that would be necessary would be a simple rinsing and you would be fine. You wouldn't need the 3-day process where you're rinsing it out for absorption because these are not materials that absorb as well as also. So, of course, everybody should ask your Rav if this happens to you, right? But I'm suggesting that there should be a reason to question that. So, Kasi Rav Asi Asar. So, if let's say I have cups, right? So, cups are by definition not used for storage for long periods of time. You pour into it, you drink it. So, Rav Asi Asar. So, Rav Asi said that he says they're prohibited. You need to go through the full 3-day process of cleansing them. For Rav Ashi Shari, and Rav Ashi says, nope, simple rinsing will do. So, Ishasi Behu, Ove Kochavim. So, if a non-Jew uses them to drink from, so Pam Rishon, the first time that he uses them, Kuli Amalo Pligi Da'aser. That circumstance that all of the Amoraim say that since he's using it for the first time, the earthenware is very absorbent the first time it's used. So therefore, if the non-Jew takes this cup and he uses it on its first usage, then for sure it's absorbed. That's not even a question. Everybody says that needs to be rinsed 3 times. Ki pligi bepam sheni. The argument is the second time it's used. Ika da'amri pam rishon v'sheni kuli amalo pligi. Others, by the way, said that the first and second time these cups are going to be highly absorbent anyway, and you have to worry about that. Also, it would be prohibited. Ki pligi bepam gimel. The argument is the third time. So once they are used a third time, then is rinsing sufficient. The hilchasa and the halacha is pam rishon v'sheni aser gimel mutter, that the first 2 times that the cup is used, it's extremely absorbent. Simply pouring the wine in for short periods of time is going to require you to go through the full 3-day process of cleaning it out. And the third time is not like that. The third time it's considered to be quick. Yes, Brian.
Sorry, it just seems it's a little bit confusing because it says at first, Kiplige pamim sheni. So it seems like, and then they say, but kuli alma.
Right, they changed it, right? First,
right.
First so there were those who said that the argument was only
on the
in the second case, right? And the first case, everyone agreed it was prohibited. Then the second version says, no. They're arguing first, and they're arguing only in the third. Even first and second, they agreed it was prohibited.
Right. Okay, so kuli alma loy pligi is the third only. And
that's right.
Okay, fine.
But
wait. Sorry, are there those that hold that the second is okay? And then kuli alma loy pligi?
According to the second version, nobody says the second is okay. According to the first version, it's an argument.
Right. Okay, fine.
But Amar of Zvid said, Haimani dekunya chivra ve'ukma shari. He says, if you've got these utensils that are made of earthenware pottery that's red or black, those are the types of pottery that are not super absorbent, so they can be washed out. They can be washed out through the regular process that we've been discussing. I know that when the Gemara says some mutter shari, also, it's not always clear whether it's saying that you just need a simple washing or a rinsing or a 3 times. But this says that it's going to require these circumstances. It's going to require the 3 times the regular. No, I take that back. Nope. This is a circumstance where what they've done is they've glazed the pottery, right? They've glazed on the inside. They've made some kind of a red or black coating of lead or of some other material that they put on the inside. Basically, it's like glass. They glazed the inside of the container so that it was smooth and now not absorbent. So according to, if you've got that, so shari, then all you need is a simple rinsing, right? Because it's not absorbent anymore. But yeruka, if the glaze is green, so then it's green because it contains alum. And so therefore, that's a super absorbent type of a glaze, and therefore you have to worry about that. And so then it's ulcer. Then it's going to be prohibited, mishum dimitzrif, because it's going to absorb, right? So, and therefore, since it's like all of the other alum containers, and you can't rinse it out at all. It's super absorbent, and there's nothing you could do about that. Okay, so now the question is going to be, V'isbehu kartufni kulu asuri. Now, if it's got cracks in the glaze, so then all of them are going to be absorbent, right? That's going to be a problem. And so then therefore they're going to have to be rinsed out like regular other earthenware containers. You're not going to be able to just wipe it out like we had before. You're going to need to have a rinsing for 3 days. It's not coffee, but okay.
Amen.
We then the question is going to be like this. Dorosh Maremar. Maremar asked the question. Bein Ukma, bein Chivara, bein Yeruka, Shari. So he says, if you've got black, red, or green, right, then he says that they're all permissible, right? So, right, he's arguing with that previous opinion, right, that the green is absorbent, and so he says as long as even the green is going to be a glaze, it's going to prohibit the absorption. Okay, so now the next question is, Maishna mechometz bepesach. What's the difference between the rules here, where we can just rinse something out, and the rules by Pesach, which is not going to be like this, as we're going to discuss in a moment, how to kosher utensils on Pesach. This is nobody's ever talked about on Pesach. Hey, have you rinsed your utensil out and put it back out there? That's not the way it works. They asked the following question from Marimar. Hani mani dekunya. If I've got these utensils that are glazed, maulish demushi behu bepiska. Can I use them on Pesach? Right? Do I have to worry about the fact that because it's the glaze? Basically, can I take my glass and rinse it out and just use it on Pesach? Can I use my china, I guess, that's glazed, the earthenware? Can I just rinse it off and it'll be fine? So Yeruka loti boilach to mitzarfi ubali. He says, I'm not even going to ask you about the green finished ones. Those we said are absorbent, and we're not going to use those. Okay, fine. Ve'asiri, they're going to be prohibited. Kiti boilach. The question that I'm asking is, Hivari ve'ukmi. What about the red ones? What about the black ones? The red and black we said was a glaze that prevented the absorption of flavor from the wine. So now if I've got glazed pottery for Pesach, shouldn't all I have to do is wash it and it should be fine? So what is the halacha there? Ki isbehu kartufni lo tiboilach. I'm not even going to ask you if there are cracks, right? We said if there are cracks, then fine, the flavor can get in, and that's also, I understand why on Pesach, it's not good for the wine, it's not good for Pesach either. Devade boy, for sure that's going to absorb. Vasirin is going to be prohibited. Kiti boilach, the question I'm asking you is, deshie. He says, these are very smooth, perfectly glazed containers. So what's the halacha there, right? Should we be worried about chametz absorbing or not? So Amar Lahu Lamedal Manaf. So he said back to him, Ona Chazinahu de Midaisi. He says, we see that the containers sweat when the flavors are in it. So when the container is heated, we see the liquid on the outside coming through. It sweats through the glaze. The kaven de Midaisi Vandai Bali. If they're going to sweat and the liquid basically is going to be transferred into the utensil, then for sure the flavor is being transferred, and then the glaze is not going to do anything, and it should be prohibited on Pesach. So my timer, what's the reason for that? Because, and you can't, and so what's the solution? So just purge it, put it in hot water, and get the flavor out. So the answer is that's not going to help you, because my timer, what's the reason? HaTorah he'ida al kliferes, the Torah says, look, once you're dealing with flavors absorbed in an earthenware utensil, she'eno yotzi midei dofno, you can never get it out again. So therefore, this glaze clearly is letting the flavor in, and now that it's in, you can never get it out, and that's why you can't kosher your earthenware utensils, your china that's glazed, you can't use it on Pesach. There's no way to kosher it. Yes, Jeff. You're muted.
You keep mentioning the word red.
Yes.
In my book, I don't even see the word red. I see white, black, and green.
Is it white, black? Am I doing a bad translation, Jeff? Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
some-
Art Scroll does
some-
translate as white. Art
All
Scroll
right,
does
we're going
translate
to
as
go with
white.
art code. Don't overrule me, right? It is white. Thank you.
Yeah.
That is a mistranslation, Jeff. It's
Sorry.
white and black. Okay, white
White-
glaze, black glaze.
Okay,
Better. Okay, good. So in any event, you're right. So those are the two glaze colors that are acceptable glaze. Green, that's the absorbent one. That one I got right. So green is going to absorb, but white and black are the glaze colors that they had that were sufficiently sealing. So now, Maishna miyayin nesech de dorish lehu maremar kulumani de kunya shari. Why is it that when it comes to chametz, we're saying there's no way to kosher these glazed containers, and then when it comes to yayin nesech, a simple rinsing with water is fine. So what's going on here? Why is there a difference? And before you suggest that what's happening here is that chametz is a deoraisa, it's a Torah level prohibition. Torah says that you can't eat chametz, and yayin nesach, the prohibition of eating or drinking wine that came from a non-Jew. Now, yayin nesach itself may be deoraisa if it's actually used for idolatry, but stam yenam is what the Gemara is talking about. This rabbinic this enactment that says that regular wine that belongs to a non-Jew can't be used. So then it's only rabbinic, so maybe we're lenient when it comes to rabbinic, and we can kosher this earthenware utensil because it's only a rabbinic prohibition. But when it comes to Pesach, it's a Torah prohibition, so we can't kosher it. Don't say that. Why? The ha called the token rabbanon came to oraisa tikun. The Chachamim have a rule, and that is they don't make stuff up that doesn't fit the characteristics of other Torah level type prohibitions. If the Torah says that a utensil absorbs a flavor and you can't eat it when it absorbs a deoraisa prohibition, and the Rabbanan say you can't have that another thing as well, then the Rabbanan are saying that it should be treated the exact same way. Just like if a flavor that's a Torah prohibition gets absorbed, you can't eat it because of the potential Torah prohibition. If it's rabbinically prohibited and it gets absorbed into a utensil, you wouldn't be allowed to eat it because of the rabbinic prohibition. And so it would be identical. So the answer is, Zet tashmisho bechomin v'zet tashmisho betzon. It's like what we said when I gave my introduction at the beginning. The difference is that when it comes to Pesach, the flavors are absorbed through heat. And so therefore, since the flavor absorbed through heat, you have to get it out through heat. That's not possible. When it comes to wine, it's cold. And so therefore, it doesn't absorb through the glaze if it's cold, even though it's liquid and it's a little bit sharp. And we said there is some absorption. It doesn't follow the same rules as absorption from heat. And so therefore, it can be, when it's glazed, it can be simply rinsed out and you're okay. Rabbi Akiva ikla leginzok. So one time Rabbi Akiva went to a place called Ginzok, Bo Mine. They asked him the following question. And here's humility. Misanin l'shos or ein misanin l'shos. What is the halacha if a person decides that he skipped breakfast and Yehuda didn't make him coffee, and now it's about lunchtime, and he thinks to himself, you know what? I'm a pious individual. I would like to, Yehuda has to make a rebuttal. Yes, Yehuda, go ahead, make your rebuttal. You're muted, so we missed the rebuttal, so. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't make you the coffee.
Yes, okay, there you are. So in any event, right? So he skips breakfast. He doesn't have anything. He gets to lunchtime and he says, you know what? I may as well make a fast day out of this, right? I've got some tshuva I want to do. Can he make a fast day out of the rest of his day? And does that count, right? Can we do that? And the real issue is, can he say anenu in his mincha shmona esrei at that point, right? He's going to add anenu into his mincha shmona esrei. And can he make a bracha anenu? Can he add that into his, can he make that, edit that into, is it count as a fast? So, lo hava b'yodei, Rabbi Akiva didn't know the answer. Okay, kankanim shalov de kochavim asurim mutarin. What if you buy utensils from non-Jews that are jugs? Can you kosher them? Can you have the use out of them? What can you do to use them? Lo hava b'yodei. He didn't know the answer to that. Bamesh shimish Moshe kol shivas yimei miluim. You know, we learned that Moshe Rabbeinu spent 7 days where before Aaron was the Kohen, when the Mishkan was getting put up, and he did all the sacrifices, right? And they dressed Aaron in the Big Day Kahuna and established him as the Kohen Gadol. What did Moshe Rabbeinu wear when he was serving? Was he the Kohen Gadol? Did he wear any? What did he wear? So lo hava biyode. They didn't know that. He didn't know that answer. So okay. Also shal be midrasha. So what does Rabbi Akiva do? Goes and he asks in the base medrash. Guys, I've got some great questions people ask me. I did not know the answer. Didn't fake it. I don't know. He went to go to the base medrash. Amri, they said to him, number one, hilchasa mis anul shos. Number one, yes, you can do that. Even though that you didn't start your day fasting intentionally, once you got to a big part of the day being done and you want to make it officially a fast day, you could do that. That's totally fine. Hishlim mispal tfilas tainis. And if you finish it, you could say anenu as well. You're going to include that as well. That non-Jewish utensils, if they're not used for 12 months, this is where we said, Brian, that there's a waiting period here. Once they're not used for 12 months, and because the liquid is what we're concerned of the absorption, once you wait a period of 12 months, the liquid disappears, right? It's completely evaporated and gone, like we had by the pitch, where we added the pitch into the ingredients. We added wine into the ingredients of the pitch, right? Or the plaster, right? So that we said isn't an issue because the liquid is completely evaporated and gone. You wait 12 months and it's completely evaporated and gone. Bameh shimesh Moshe, what did Moshe Rabbeinu use? What garments did he wear? So for Shivas Yimei Milim for the 7 days, Becholuk Lovon. He had a plain, simple white robe. That's what he wore. He didn't wear the big dekuna. There was a plain, simple white robe that Moshe Rabbeinu wore. That was it. Rav Kahana Masni Becholuk Lovon She'en Lo Amra. Rav Kahana said it was a plain white cloak that had no hem on it. And the no hem is an important piece because that remained the custom for the Kohanim for all times, that they didn't have a hem on their garment. And the reason for that is that when the Kohanim and even Moshe Rabbeinu were servicing in the Beis HaMikdash, and they were dealing with money and property that belonged to the congregation, people would suspect them of hiding money in their pockets, in their places in the garments where you could hide things. If you had a hem, theoretically, you could slide some money into the hem and escape without people seeing that you have it. So therefore, the garments that the Kohanim had and Moshe Rabbeinu had, and anybody servicing in the Beis HaMikdash, were without hems. No pockets, no hems, no seams that were easily visible, nothing, no place that people could hide anything. And that seems so weird because you're talking about the holiest people. And the answer is that in Judaism, the holiest people voluntarily surrender their books for their counting, right? We don't look at it and say, well, I'm so holy. Of course, you can't check on me. Reverse, right? Since I'm so holy, I am thrilled and happy, right? I was one time, I was in West Hartford, Connecticut. There was this fellow that had the custom on Shabbos. He would invite rabbis over to his house, and he would make the ice. He would say to the rabbi, "Rabbi, I want you to know I'm a Baal Tshuva. So I want you to tell. I want you to know this. If you see me doing anything in Hilchos Shabbos that's not right, I want you to tell me because that's why I invited you. Because I would need a mashgiach, somebody to take a look and watch how I do things here, there, this, the other thing, and that's how I want somebody to be able to see how and catch how well I'm keeping Shabbos, right? The better you, and he was one of the best and most meticulous people in Shmir Shabbos, right? But he became that way because he was so open to being checked, right? So therefore being checked isn't right, as I say, that the evaluation process isn't something that isn't given to somebody because you don't like them. Your person says, please evaluate me because if you can find something that I can do better, I'd love to hear about it. Now, the next thing that the Mishnah says is that we've got grape skins and grape seeds of non-Jews. So those are prohibited while they are wet, moist, because they've got liquid of wine on it. So then they're going to be problematic. But if they're dry, then they're fine. The Brisa says, well, the Mishnah says that I've got grape skins or grape seeds of non-Jews that are liquidy, that are wet. They're prohibited. But if they are dry, they're going to be permitted. What makes them wet and what makes them dry? What's the definition? So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said the name of Shmuel. Lachin, they are moist. Kol Yud Beis Chodesh for 12 months. Right? You leave them around. This is again same number. 12 months. They're still liquidy. Kol Yud Beis and Yeveshim la'achar Yud Beis Chodesh. They're considered dry after 12 months. Then all the liquid has gone away. Itmar, it has been said, Amar Rabbi Bar Rav Chana, Bar Chana, Rabbi Bar Chana said, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kishein Asurin, Asurin Afilu Behana. When they are prohibited, the prohibition is going to be even deriving any benefit, because we're going to consider it like Yayin Nesach, can't even get any benefit from it. Kishein Mutarin, and once they are permissible, Mutarin Afilu Bachila, then they're permissible for everything, even to eat them, because the wine is gone. Amar Rav Zvid said, Hai Dordia de Chamra, Daramai. So he says that if I've got this, the dordia of the wine sediments, right? The sediments of Aramean wine, basar tresa yarchi after 12 months, shasaf, which is a year, shari, that would be permissible. Amar of Chaviva Brei de Rav, the son of Rabbi said, honey gulfe, the jars, the earthenware utensils of non-Jews, basar tresa yarchi, shata shari. After 12 months, they're dried out and they're fine. Amar Rav Chaviva said, honey avata detai. He says these wine skins, they're made of thick wine skins, so that the Arab merchants carry. Bazar Tracy Yarchi Shasa. After 12 months, which is a year, shari, they become permissible because all the liquid is gone. Amar Rav Acha Brei de Ravika, Rav Acha the son of Ravika said, honey purtsani daramai. He says these, there's a pomace is what the art scroll. I looked that one up. A pomace. I forgot what that is. The pomace is this wine sediment also. It's another word type of wine sediment, sludge from wine that comes out there. I'm not sure what the difference between sediment and the sludge is, but that's what the pomace is. So that from Arameans, Basar Tracy Yarchi Shasa Shari, it has the same halacha. After 12 months, the liquid is gone and it becomes permissible. Amar of Acha Brei de Rava, Rav Acha, the son of Rava, said, Hani Gufe Shechini V'uchmi, Basar Tracy Yarchi Shasa Shari. He says that when it comes to the vessels, right, that are of the non-Jews, if they are that once they are, I guess they are glazed. But this is black and white. If I'm now going to translate it properly, right? Black and white ones, the glaze after 12 months.
Red and black. These ones are red and black.
One of them. See, I knew I saw red someplace. This is the red and black one. So if they're red and black, right after that, they are permissible because the wine has evaporated anything that was absorbed in it. So that's okay. So those 5 issues are all consistent. Now, the next thing that we discuss is morius. Morius is the chopped up fish that a few issues with it. Morius, you don't have to worry about the non-Jew buying it from a non-Jew that the fish isn't kosher because it has fish pieces in it. So you could see the fins and scales in it. So you therefore knew that it was kosher or not kosher. The issue that you would have is that it was expensive. And so as a filler, a non-Jew might add wine to it, despite wine being an expensive beverage. They could add wine to it as a filler, and that would be non-kosher. So Tanar Rabbanan or rabbis were Morius Uman, if you buy your Morius from a professional, so then that's okay, because no self-respecting Morius salesperson will add filler to their Morius. So everybody knows that. So therefore, if I'm not gonna put wine in my Morius without telling anybody, that is going to jeopardize my status as a reliable Morius salesperson. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Gamliel, Rabbi Yehuda ben Gamliel says, Mishum Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, in the name of Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, Af Chiluk. Same is true of Chiluk. Chiluk is some kind of a small fish that was also very expensive, and you don't have to worry about Chiluk. It was a young fish. When it was young, its fins and scales haven't grown in yet. So theoretically, if you bought your Chiluk, a non-reputable person, a non-Jew, would put non-kosher fish into your chiluk because the chiluk has no fins and scales that are visible yet. But a good, reputable professional isn't going to do that because it affects the flavor negatively. So therefore, as long as you go to a reputable person, right, this is the allowance, and we're going to talk about Chalav Yisrael tomorrow, that this is the allowance for relying on agencies that are certifying, right? I wouldn't want to chas v'sholom, lose my add other ingredients to my food because the agencies that protect food in Canada or in the United States would call me out on it. I'd lose my license. So therefore, the self-respecting ones are not going to add anything to it. Yes, Brian.
I just wanted to ask, going back, sorry, I wanted to go back to the dishes because we see that it seems like 12 months makes everything permitted. Is that a stam thing, even with heat?
No.
Or no, only with cold.
Yeah. That is a cold issue because all the liquid disappears from it. I don't want to stop in the middle of something. So we could stop here because we could pick up. Avimi is going to repeat what we just said, and we could start there as the review of the item we just said. So let's stop here. Tani Avimi Brei de Ravavo is where we'll pick up tomorrow. And it's a Shabbat. See you guys tomorrow.
Where are we continuing from? Which word?
We're going to continue from Tani Avimi Brei de Ravavo, which is right 8 lines down. So, yep. Wonderful. I think this works.
Yeah, this is great. This is what we need just to keep us going while you're away. And
I might have a different background tomorrow night.
Oh, Yehuda,
keep it fresh.
I would count on it, right? We would. I was thinking that you were in outer space, but now that you tell me the background, so
I just came back from space.
Yeah. All right. This is great. Thank you,
Brian.
Rabbi
You have a
Loiterman.
question?
Me? No.
No. Your hand is just raised.
I don't know why it's still up.
Your
Yeah.
hand just stays there.